It's week 5 for EMEA and Pacific and week 4 for Americas. But before we head into the Pickems, um, first up tomorrow, probably there will be the video for the playoffs, both power rankings and Pickems for China, since that starts this week, the playoffs. And so without further ado, let's head right into the Americas Pickems, or rather first taking a look at the ELO ratings. And so these are the ELO ratings, and with Americas, it's a lot of teams winning that I wouldn't have assumed winning, right? Crew, not crew. C9, for example, beating MIBR was a big upset. So we still have some upsets happening, and yeah, I don't know what to think about these teams. So in terms of ELO ratings, we've got G2, then kind of a really large gap to the next team, which is NRG. I don't think G2 is that good. I don't think they are even top 3 right now. I don't think, maybe like 5th or something, but I don't know. Then NRG, MIBR, Lev, they're close by each other. Then Furia, C9, Crew, 100 Thieves, MV, Sentinels, all of them are somewhat close by each other. And then EG and Loud lastly. I feel feel good about the bottom two. From the ELO ratings, that's accurate. Apart from that, I don't think the ELO rating really works out well. I hope it gets better the further we get towards playoffs, but yeah, uh, still interesting to look at. But yeah, let's now head into the pick'ems. And so, as you can see, I went 4-2 last week, which is better than I've done in the first 2 weeks of Americas. But yeah, still, I would say Crew looked better than I thought versus Furia. I thought it would be a close match, but that was still impressive, I would say. And then C9 beating MIBR, I don't know how that happened, if I'm being honest. But yeah, um, let's take a look at these week's pick'ems. I think NRG should beat EG. Now with Lev versus MIBR, this is a hard match because beforehand I would have said MIBR have clearly looked like the best America's team in my eyes. But yeah, Lev has kind of looked better during stage 1 than MIBR has. And I don't know if that's enough for me to go with Lev, because I am kind of inclined to think that for MIBR, this game versus C9 was just an oopsie, and they're gonna be great again. And I do hope that this was an oopsie for MIBR, because C9 has looked terrible beforehand. And yeah, I think I would like Lev to win though, just because I like the team more, but I'm not sure. I think MIBR could realistically just look great again, and I think I think MIBR winning is more likely, I feel like, but I'm still gonna go with Lev just because I like the team and they've looked great, so I want Lev to win. Then Crew should win versus 100 Thieves. I think Furia versus Sentinels could be kind of close, but I would give it to Furia. Loud versus C9 should be a win for C9. I don't know if the could get his visa in like this week already, or if it's gonna be a long-term thing until he can play. But yeah, I think regardless, C9 should be favored, since I probably don't have that much scrim time with Erde. But yeah, I don't know. It could go too loud. But C9 looked way better versus MIBR than they looked before, so I think they're gonna keep that. And then G2 versus Envy, I would give it to G2, even though G2 has looked a bit rough and Envy has looked, well, they've looked okay in week 2 versus C9, but then they looked really rough versus Lev. So because of that, I think it should be an easy win for G2. And so next up we have EMEA, and for EMEA, we've got in first place Fnatic, then Foot, and then Team Liquid in terms of the ELO ratings. Then after Gentle Mates and Team Heretics, these 5 teams are all really close by each other when it comes to the ELO ratings, and I would say Fnatic, Foot, and Liquid have certainly looked like the top 3 teams in EMEA right now. I would say there's kind of a like Gentlemates and Heretics, they haven't looked as good as these 3 at all. I think Heretics have probably looked better than Gentlemates overall, and recently after their after the change with Koshmaras coming in, right? They just beat them last week, so I will clearly put Heretics above Gentlemates. And then we have BBL and Eternal Fire, and then Team Vitality. I find BBL and Vitality still really hard to really rank. I don't know how highly I would think of them. But I don't know. I think they're more in a tier together with Gentlemates, and Eternal Fire would probably put them in a tier with Heretics above these 3. But yeah, I'm not that set on it. And then there's Giant X, KC, and Navi, who have kind of looked as good as the other teams. I kind of feel fine about that. And then Pacific in last, which is also really fine, right? They haven't won a game yet, so makes sense. But now let's head into the Pickems for EMEA. And so as you can see, last week I also went 4-2 in EMEA. I also only got Heretics winning over Gentle Maid strong. Heretics has looked way better with Koshmaras coming in, so that's great. And then BBL beat Vitality, which I didn't think they could do that, but I feel good to see them perform better again. But yeah, let's look at the week 5 matches coming up. And first up with Heretics versus Foot, I think the question is, how seriously are Foot gonna take it? I could really see them trying out like a couple of maps or trying some comps on some maps that they maybe aren't as good on, because they are already secured first place. So because of that, I don't know whether they're gonna be fully try-harding this match. And so because of that, there's clearly an angle how Heretics can win versus Foot. But I would still give it to Foot just based off what we've seen. They've looked like the better team, but I wouldn't be surprised if Foot just try something and it doesn't work out, and then Heretics wins, and it still won't be indicative of how good of a team Foot are and how it's gonna go if these 2 teams meet in the playoffs again. Then next up, Vitality should win versus Pacific. I think Navi should win versus KC, even though Navi are playing with a sub. I think last week they've looked pretty good with Comeback coming in and him not playing on Chamber anymore and playing on Neon instead. So that looked way better, even though they lost to Liquid. I don't think it's a shame to lose to Liquid. We've looked really good, so yeah, because of that, I would favor them over KC. The next up for BBL versus Fnatic, it's kind of the same thing as it was for Heretics and Foot. And I'm still going with the same logic. I'm gonna give it to Fnatic just because of what we've seen. They've looked better. Um, although they are playing with a sub, since Vekash has problems with his health still, and Sivov is coming in for him. So maybe because Fnatic are playing with a sub and they already locked in first place, I'm gonna give it to BBL because of that. But if if it was if it was Fnatic playing full strength, then obviously I would favor them since they've looked much better thus far. Then for Giant X versus Eternal Fire, this is going to be a really important match for Giant X, because if they lose that after Vitality beat Pacific, then they would be eliminated from playoffs, so it would be a really important match for them. But I would still I would still think Eternal Fire win this. They just looked better. They overall looked like the better team, so yeah, I'm giving it to Eternal Fire. And then lastly, I think Team Liquid are favorites versus Gentlemates. Gentlemates haven't really looked inspiring thus far. So yeah, with Team Liquid looking really good, I think this is an easy match. And then lastly, we have Pacific. And for Pacific, the number one team in terms of elo rating is T1, then Nongshim, and then Paper X. I think at this point, maybe you could make an argument that they are the top three at this point, but with Nongshim, I would still not say this confidently, right? They haven't looked that insane, so even though they've looked better in the last couple weeks, um, I'm not certain that they are for sure a candidate to make Masters London or Prime candidate. Then after we have Global, Full Sense, and TRX, who are all close by each other. And even though Full Sense just lost to RRQ, I still feel somewhat fine about this. I think I would put DRX higher though, and I would probably put RRQ in the same tier as them, but I wouldn't say that RRQ are clearly a tier above Full Sense, if that makes sense. And then we've got DFM and Gen.G, who have kind of looked like a tier below them. And then Team Secret, Varel, and Zeta, who all haven't looked really that great thus far. So it makes sense that they're at the bottom. But now let's head to the Pickems for Pacific. And so last week I went 5-1, only RRQ winning versus Full Sense. I didn't have that, but apart from that, I got all of them correct. So I feel like I have a pretty good grasp on Pacific, even though a lot of the teams look really good and it feels really hard to pick the matches. I still end up doing quite well. So I feel good about that, and I hope it continues. And in week 5, the first match, and G should beat Team Secret. Team Secret haven't looked inspiring, so I think they are clear favorites. Whereas Zeta, I think, is going to be a really close match, and realistically, you can make an argument for either of these teams winning, but I would give it to Varel just because I think they have more firepower than Zeta has, and while Zeta has like more solid general macro, I think especially with how the meta is right now, it suits Varel a bit better. Then T1, I think, should beat Full Sense. I think Nongshim versus GE could be a really, really close match. I would say Nongshim are probably slight favorites since they've looked quite good the last two matches, and so they should come in with a bit more confidence than GE, who have lost their last two versus Paper X and DRX. But yeah, realistically, it could go either way. Then Paper X's DRX should also be a banger. And I would still give it to Paper X just because of the just because of how strong the team has looked at their best. And with DRX, they have struggled a bit more at times during stage 1. Or not that they've struggled more, right, since they have a better record, but they, like, in the matches that they've won, they at times didn't look as convincing as Paper X did. So because of that, I would probably give it to Paper X, but I think it could be a really, really close match, and I hope it's gonna be a really, really interesting match. And then last year, RRQ should beat DTFM. I could see an upset happening here, but I think it's rather unlikely. And so these are my pick'ems for week 5 for EMEA and Pacific and week 4 for Americas. Let me know what you guys think, if you disagree with any of my picks, and then I'll see you guys next time.